Hey guys, welcome to another community update video here at Ferrum Network. Please welcome Nick. Hey Nick.
Hey, how's it going, Tom?
Hey, not too bad. And please welcome Ian. Ian, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's mid-May. Let's just discuss what's been going on at Ferrum in the past few weeks. What do you think has been the biggest news that we've announced in the past couple weeks to our community?
Ferrum DAO.
Ferrum DAO.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're here to discuss today. So I am super excited about that because the main reason for Ferrum DAO is Ferrum is becoming like fully decentralized. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. More democratic, more decentralized, more utility, and just really the way that a network should operate. Now that there's going to be a lot more improvement proposals and what they call requests for comments. If you think about ERC, that means Ethereum request for comment. EIP, Ethereum Improvement Proposal. We're going to have our own FRCs, FIPs, and there's going to be voting on these referenda to kind of help dictate the direction of the network. So it's really, really cool.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Sounds complicated, but I'm pretty sure from a user standpoint it is not going to be complicated. But let's just start from the beginning, shall we? So Nick, you've obviously you quite vocal today on the Ferrum DAO. So the first question is for you. If you could tell us the reasoning, the motivation behind transitioning Ferrum into this DAO. How does this transition going to impact the community, the governance committee as well? And what is the vision for the future of Ferrum Network once we deploy and launch the DAO governance?
Yeah. So I think a lot of this goes back to the current trajectory of Ferrum, right? Like we've always been a blockchain as a service provider, creating applications for both users and clients around the space to utilize. Now we're actually building a network for people to build their own products and applications on. And as projects continue to scale, it becomes even more imperative that they decentralize themselves and that they have a more democratic way of moving forward, because that's what Web3 is all about, right? It's about democratizing governance, having a truly decentralized network, especially as we start open sourcing things and whatnot. So there needs to be, really sound mechanisms and protocols in place for determining what sort of improvements are going to be made to the network, are going to be made to the different verticals of Ferrum in general. But I think the main motivation for this was around us becoming an infrastructure play, a layer one, and as you scale, decentralization becomes more important. And a lot of projects kind of start off centralized and then they continue to decentralize further. That seems to be the best route that a lot of projects have taken, and I think we've taken that approach too. And this is a huge milestone for us, because now we're really putting the power of the direction of the community of the network in the hands of the community. And we've had kind of an iterative approach to governance with the Ferrum X originally was a kind of a quasi governance token that allowed the governance committee to help a lot with this. The governance committee is still obviously going to play a major role, because as we'll talk about later, there are requirements or prerequisites to be able to create proposals, which has to do with holdings, but there are no prerequisites aside from just staking in Crucible to be able to vote. So everyone can vote. It's kind of the more skin in the game you have, the more easy it is for you to create proposals. But there's these really cool mechanisms that we've put in place to eliminate things like governance tax. It's just a super well thought out like structure to governance, and I'm super stoked to talk about it today.
Nice. Okay. I mean, well, I'm pretty sure, for everyone who's been on this journey with Ferrum for some time now is pretty excited to hear about that, because it's like the next iteration of Ferrum Network. It's like the next kind of phase for us that we are approaching right now. And any kind of further decentralization of the project is always a great thing. Bringing and giving the power to the community and making sure the democracy aspect is in place. So that's fantastic. So taking what you've just said, Ian, I've got a question for you. How can community members ensure that they're actually being eligible to vote on proposals, that they can participate in a DAO? And if you could just shed some light also on the proposal creation process. How does it work? Is the community going to be involved in discussing the proposals as well? How is that supposed to work?
Yeah, for sure. So, in thinking about how we wanted to set up the DAO, we realized, okay, we need to, this needs to sort of further some of the products, some of the utilities that we already have in place with Ferrum. We need to do certain things to prevent governance attacks, like Nick mentioned. We also want to make it as simple as possible. Honestly, this is a big transition for the community, for the team, for the community, for everybody, because it's new for us, right? And obviously, people have experience dealing, governance probably across other projects that they're stakeholders in. But for Ferrum, it was new. So we wanted to make it easy yet secure, and then also add value to what we've already built and we've already have in place in terms of utility. So, sort of a, big picture, 360 view. It's simple to participate, right? Like with as little as one staked cFRM, whether that's on BSC or Arbitrum or any other future chain we're going to launch it on, one staked cFRM, and you can vote, right? The more tokens you have staked, obviously, the more voting power you have on a one-to-one basis, but as little as one token allows you to participate. Also, as little as one token allows you to make kind of almost a preliminary proposal, right? So that's kind of step one, is if you want to make a proposal, you can, even with one staked cFRM. Now, whether that actually gets picked up and formalized into a formal proposal is going to then depend on essentially somebody within the existing governance committee. So again, we wanted to tie it back to what we've already been, have in place. So anyone with 450,000 or more staked cFRM can then formalize that proposal and then put it to the community for an actual vote. I believe there's like a 5 or 7 day period in which a vote is like proposed to when the vote's like finalized. I believe we're doing binary choices to begin with. And by the way, the structure of this may change subject to governance decisions, which is kind of cool, right? But this is the first sort of structure of it. We want to, again, keep it simple. So 5 or 7 days, I forget which, ultimately the vote occurs. There are some formalities you have to follow as well and make a proposal. It's not just, hey, let's just do this. Like, you have to come up with a bit of a plan, of course, your rationale behind it. The goal is to be persuasive, right? If you're making a proposal, you want people to rally behind that. So you need to be persuasive, you need to be detailed as to how that's going to work, who's potentially responsible for enacting that plan, whether that's a Ferrum dev team or marketing team or maybe the community, whatever the case may be. So there's basically a process you need to follow. We've put together a helpful one-pager. I believe there's a few different infographics floating around out there. One's in the white paper, one's elsewhere. And Snapshot itself, which is where we're running everything through, that tool also lays out everything. So it's pretty clear, it's pretty easy. Right now we're in the kind of the phase of course, rolling it out, but also thinking about, okay, what are some really cool proposals that we can start with that's going to get the community engaged with this, that's going to be meaningful for them. So we're having some internal discussions around maybe what some of those items could be. But at the end of the day, look, we want this to be decentralized, community driven. That's where we're headed with Ferrum, and that's where I think every Web3 project should aspire to be. So ultimately, the success of this is going to rest in the hands of the community. which is something that I'm really excited about. So hopefully that answers your questions, Tom, or question, Tom.
Yeah, this does answer the question. For everyone interested, we're going to be sharing the infographics and the whole process of how to vote and how this the whole DAO is going to work. Those things are being finalized, but as soon as they're ready, we're going to inform everyone about that as well. So, Ian, that's actually really interesting. You mentioned Snapshot. So, Nick, can you tell us a little bit more about why did we choose Snapshot to make this fundamental kind of change for Ferrum and to bring the DAO to the community? What's so special about Snapshot?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everyone knows at Ferrum we're all about turnkey solutions. Like we've provided a lot of white label solutions to projects in the past. Now we're on the other end, and we're on the receiving end of being able to use something that's already in place, out of the box solution that's super customizable. Snapshot's awesome. It's kind of like the standard, the industry standard. And you saw it being used all the way back when Uniswap first came out, and Uniswap's still using it, and all of the major DAOs are still using Snapshot. And it's because of the open source nature of Snapshot. Like if you have an idea, you can contribute to it, which I think we'll probably talk about later on. It's something that we've already contributed to the open source framework for Snapshot that now ourselves and other people are using. So it's super customizable. It's turnkey solution, out of the box, ready to go. We didn't have to start from scratch. We didn't have to build anything of our own, which a lot of projects end up doing, and it's an expense. It's a time suck. It's and there's something already there. So they've been an incredible supporting member of Web3, and we should leverage that. So we're really excited to be leveraging Snapshot and using it moving forward. And it was kind of a no-brainer for us. It was all the pieces were in place. So yeah, hope that answers that.
No, it does, because I'm pretty sure people can be quite interested in this topic. I'm pretty sure in Web3 a lot of people already heard about Snapshot. They've used Snapshot. They're familiar with the user interface as well because they've used it with Uniswap. So that's obviously a great thing, and it's never a good idea also to reinvent the wheel if it actually works really well. So yeah, 100%. But now I know I'm not sure if the community members that already read the article that we've published on Medium, they probably aware of this connection between the DAO governance that we're running on Snapshot and Crucible. But Ian, I actually wanted to dive a little bit deeper into Crucible and Crucible's role in a DAO, in Ferrum's DAO. How does Ferrum Network utilize Crucible in the first place to safeguard against any kind of governance attacks? Because we need to be ready as a project. We need to be ready for everything. Basically, we need to make sure that the community is being safe. And what unique attributes does Crucible possess to facilitate this kind of security?
Yeah, so like I said before, we sort of in devising this DAO setup, we wanted to make sure we were leveraging existing technology, existing utilities, and Crucible being a key component of the Ferrum ecosystem. And we realized it was actually perfect for a DAO in the sense of preventing DAO governance attacks, because what Crucible essentially does is attaches a cost to malicious behavior. Now, that's not to say that someone couldn't just do it anyway, but it's like a 51% tax on Bitcoin. Like theoretically, it's possible. I don't know how many billions of dollars it would take to do that. So it's that kind of concept. It's like you want to financially dissuade anybody who might want to put out a malicious proposal against Ferrum. By the way, we have other safeguards against that and the worst outcomes of that should it come to it. But as a first kind of layer of defense, so to speak. And by the way, I'm hopeful that this is not going to happen to Ferrum. I don't think there's people out there trying to get us necessarily, anything like that. But it could happen in the future, and you have, like you said, you plan for the worst with the mindset of how do we protect the community, the stakeholders, everybody else. So the idea is essentially you attach a cost to participate in governance because you have to stake. First of all, you have to buy the Ferrum, then you got to stake into Crucible, which a cost to that. There isn't a cost of voting or anything like that, but if you wanted to then unstake there's a cost to that as well. So, we're hoping that this it would be a sufficient deterrent. If it's not, we have other safeguards in place. So I don't want people to be, extremely concerned or anything like that. But I think it's a wonderful way to not only leverage an existing product, an existing utility for the token, but potentially dissuade bad actors with kind of a financial penalty if they wanted to do put out a malicious vote or something like that. So that was really the mindset behind it. I think it works perfectly.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that too is like it definitely helps from a voting perspective, but from a proposal creation perspective too. It takes a lot more staked cFRM to be able to create a proposal, meaning the penalty for like withdrawing or selling. If someone wanted to get in just to create a malicious proposal, they'd have to stake 450 cFRM. Voting with
450,000.
That's what I meant. Sorry, 450,000 cFRM. And so like that's even more of a deterrent for people wanting to create malicious proposals. Like people can go in and say like, oh, I don't want this to pass because I don't like Ferrum, and so they vote for with 100 cFRM, but that's probably not going to do something. We need a 20 million cFRM quorum, which means like that there needs to be at least 20 million cFRM voted with in order for a proposal to pass. So 100, 1,000 probably wouldn't have much of an impact, but somebody creating a proposal maliciously with 450K cFRM stake, like they stand to lose a lot, especially like if they're doing something that's going to negatively impact the price while they're staked in Crucible. They're basically just kissing their investment goodbye. So this is something that's been integrated or implemented by a lot of different projects around the space via alternative mechanisms. But what's really cool is that Crucible lends itself really well to this, and something that we've already had created. Crucible is a mechanism to help incentivize desired behavior, right? And so that's perfect for governance. And we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of people are coming up with super complex and cumbersome processes to defend against these governance attacks. And this could still evolve. We like Ian mentioned earlier, based on future governance referenda and proposals and votes, like we could continue to add further layers of security to these potential threats, right? Something you always got to keep your eye on when you're a DAO, right? So I think Crucible is a really, really good kind of, like Ian said, first layer of defense here.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys. Now, Nick, can you also elaborate a little bit on Ferrum's recent contribution to Snapshot's open source repo and the potential it has for any other projects to use as well?
Yeah, so this is super cool because this was something that wasn't really possible through Snapshot, which again is one of the really cool things about Snapshot is like you can contribute code to their open source repo, and if the strategy gets merged, then other people can use it. And so up until recently, and thanks to our CTO Taha, Snapshot users weren't able to track staked balances via multiple DeFi platforms across multiple networks. So we needed this because of the way that our token economy is set up. We've got Crucible that's live on multiple networks, right? BSC and Arbitrum. And most people were just kind of relegated to having to track stake balances across one network. But we just, because of the code that Taha submitted to the open source repo, now ourselves and other folks in Web3 are able to track staked DeFi balances across multiple smart contracts, across multiple networks, and have a cumulative balance shown for their voters. So it's actually a pretty substantial improvement to something that was already very, very useful with Snapshot. So and I think Taha's been in the Discord and Snapshot helping people implement it already. So there's other people that have kind of taken note. So it's pretty exciting, and it'll serve our community really well because people have their holdings spread across multiple networks now. We don't really need to worry about not being able to use those tokens, those segregated holdings for the same cause. So yeah, that was essentially what Taha created and submitted, and it's pretty cool.
Awesome, thank you. Ian, I've got one more question for you. Actually, you're you're one of you and Naeem. You know, you're the first people that believed in Ferrum in the first place. And I don't want to ask you about the vision, because the vision is pretty clear. You know, we're really open about what Ferrum and the Ferrum team stand for. But in terms of the mission, how it's been changing across the years, you know, for you to see Ferrum becoming a DAO and to open up to the community to participate in the whole governance process, it must be a huge thing. You know, I would love to, myself and probably the community, we would love to hear a little bit more from your perspective. What does it mean to you when you see Ferrum transitioning since, you know, back in 2018 to the DAO now, from the incubator to the DAO to the layer one project? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, when I think back to like the early days, 2018, which is, you know, basically 5 years ago, when I met Naeem and we decided to do this crazy thing called Ferrum. It's great. It's nuts to see how far it's come and where it's gone, all the people we've met along the way, and all the, hopefully, the positive impact we've had along the way. So thinking back is just mind blowing. But yeah, I think it's great. Like, as somebody who obviously has been involved with Ferrum for so long, and, you know, part of the, you know, the growing the whole thing, I can't wait for more voices to come in, for more support to come in, for more ideas to come in, right? Like I always had the mindset of, like, we're stronger together, right? We can do a lot more collectively than myself, than my, you know, my co-founder, than any of the core team members can do on their own, right? So to have this now, this DAO, where we can leverage the sort of the power and the intelligence and the collective intelligence, et cetera, of the community, it's amazing, right? It's amazing. My hope is that folks really do buy in. They really do get involved with this. Obviously, we understand the market conditions are challenging right now, and, you know, the interest just in general is low. But there's still a lot of exciting stuff happening within Ferrum. You're going to see some really exciting proposals, I think, coming out related to mainnet, related to multi-swap, related to incubations and pre-sales and investment opportunities. So a lot of different stuff that previously the community didn't have a lot of say on is now going to have tremendous say on. And to me, that is very, very exciting. I couldn't be happier about it. But yeah, it's hard to believe where we've come, you know, come to now after five years of working on Ferrum. But we're still early days.
We are. Okay, well, that's really nice. Thank you, Ian. Guys, my final question: when can we expect the first proposal going live for the community to vote on? Can you shed some light on what is it going to be about? And what's next? What's next for Ferrum?
Yeah, so I can touch on that real quick. Next week, we're actually getting together as a team to go through the entire process of creating a proposal so that everyone on the team understands how to create proposals. We'll probably turn this into some sort of like webinar so that other people can kind of understand how the process works. I think once you do it once, you'll know how to do it, but it might seem like a few steps at first, but it's gonna be pretty easy. Anyways, we're gonna be creating the first proposal, and the way that any like legitimate DAO should be set up is by electing DAO mods, right? So people that can actually take a proposal and move it through the process and move it to the next phase so that it can go to voting. That people need to have, elected officials need to have certain rights so that they can actually move these things forward. And so we're going to be going through the process of nominating and electing DAO mods, which will probably be a combination, at least in the nomination phase, of, you know, team members as well as governance committee members. So that'll be the first thing. And then there will likely be some, you know, governance improvement related proposals that we may even put up to a vote. And then, you know, there will be fun things too. I mean, to me, that is really fun because it's the whole structure of a decentralized autonomous organization, right? That's what DAO stands for. So you have to put those checks and balances in place through a democratic system. And so that's the inception of the DAO is really going to take formation through these initial kind of proposals, right? And then it'll get fun. We'll start putting things to vote, like which network should we integrate with for our products. Is there a decentralized incubator project that we should consider? Should we take should we advise these folks? Should we take an investment? What sort of features do we want to see in multi-swap? Things even like what kind of fees should we have? Like, there's a slew of things. The sky is really the limit. And then when mainnet hits, it's gonna take off even more. But yeah, I think initially it'll be the structure, the setup of the DAO, and then we'll get into other things such as integrations and some of those things I just mentioned.
Brilliant. I mean, this sounds super exciting. So thank you guys. Thank you for going through the process, the ideation, the reasoning behind the Ferrum DAO. It's been a pleasure to discuss this with you guys. For everyone else, make sure to join us on Telegram and on Discord, and make sure to read the article on the Ferrum DAO on Medium that's in the description as well. Nick, Ian, thank you so much for joining me here today, and I wish you have a great, wonderful day and weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks.
Bye.